Hey, what's up you guys? Bloody Jacob here to give you my thoughts on Gamera, the original film from 1965, Gamera the Giant Monster, whatever you want to say, as well as basically this, a similar thing, Gamera the Invincible, the US version of the original film, as well as giving my thoughts on the first sequel of the Showa series, Gamera vs. Barugon.
Guys, Bloody Jacob here, meeting my icon, Catherine Isabel.
Hey, I'm Sylvia Saska.
And I'm Jen Saska.
And we're the Saska Sisters. Get in! Get a part of this! Let's spread a little butt down there. Look.
And yes, if you guys didn't know, I am a big Japanese monster kaiju fan. I've been a die-hard, lifelong Godzilla fan. If you don't know what lifelong means, since I was a little kid, almost a baby, I've absolutely loved Godzilla. Godzilla is still one of my main passions in life. In fact, I just recently bought an X Plus, Meltdown Godzilla statue, which is really cool. Should be doing a video on that within the next few days, finally. But yeah, I thought I'd branch out. I mean, I've done some Godzilla movie reviews on my channel, along with the new Legendary films and such. I've done some of the Japanese film reviews. I own all of them. I have a bunch of Godzilla merchandise. I could have a whole Godzilla room, if I had the space for it. And I intend to do more Godzilla videos as well. There's still a lot that I haven't done. I wish I had I'd given this stuff more presence on my channel, but with that, I do also really enjoy Gamera, and I haven't really given his early films as much of a look in quite a long time. I've always really liked the 90s films, his High C era films. All those I think are pretty good, especially the third one. I actually think is better than some Godzilla movies from that era, and I really like the High C Godzilla era. My favorites from that being Godzilla vs. Violente, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, and probably Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, although I do like, of course, the main aspect of Godzilla vs. Destroyer. But we could talk about that another time. It just goes to show I need to do more, kaiju-related videos. And yeah, looking at these two earliest films, of when Gamera was first created, created as a rival for Godzilla. And so, yeah, it's sort of a rip-off, kinda, except, turtle, tortoise. And there's even some shots in the original Gamera film. If you guys know that iconic shot from Gojira, the people seeing Godzilla, poke his head out from over the mountain, the hill, whatever it is. They do a similar shot with Gamera here, although it's like over a building or something. Or no, not building. It's actually over a similar type of land formation. And there's a couple things like that, especially when Gamera's marching through the town and such. You're definitely getting Godzilla vibes. Although, to the movie's credit, they do a couple things different. They did try to make it a little bit more distinct. Not just with the turtle thing, but Gamera also flies, so he feels like a different monster, maybe just in the same world. Yeah, I'll be honest, this time I actually did end up watching Gamera the Invincible, the US version, which isn't too different from the original Japanese version. There's just some music that's switched around, I think. From what I read, there's actually a few more seconds of Gamera shown at a certain point, so that's kind of odd. And of course, there's added in American characters to it, which maybe obviously aren't really necessary, but it didn't really affect watching the movie too much for me. I actually have a Blu-ray collection of the High Sierra Gamera films, the trilogy. I need to get the Showa films on Blu-ray. But yeah, I gotta say, I did still enjoy it, Gamera the Invincible. The suit, for one, I think actually looks pretty good for the time. There's some nice detail and texture to it that maybe you could say you otherwise wouldn't expect. There's also a little more life to Gamera than I was initially thinking, having not watched it properly in a long time. And the fire effects, again, for the time, aren't too bad either. You can tell it's a man-made effect. It doesn't seem like overly monstrous or something necessarily. Oh, breathes fire. It's not the most creative thing, but it obviously worked to some extent. And they don't make this obviously isn't as self-serious as Godzilla's first film, Gojira. The first Gamera film came out in '65, right in the middle, when Godzilla was just on the edge of turning into, the more kid-friendly films that, followed for the next 10 years after that, in '65. He started getting over the three-headed monster and such, but that's when he started getting like Ebra, Horror of the Deep, and Astro Monster, and Son of Godzilla, and it got a little more lighthearted. So it was like this Gamera movie was released right on the cusp of before that happened, and that's why Gamera vs. Barugon takes a little bit of a turn. Although I still don't think it's overly kidified yet. But you still have Gamera, he is hostile, although you could say it's still people that end up attacking him first and, sort of, poking at the turtle, so to speak, right? Not the bear. But you still do get an aspect of Gamera, with a little kid. He ends up knocking the tower over, but then saving the kid anyway. And the kid then becomes sort of obsessed with Gamera after he had released his pet turtle, into the water. Now, does he think Gamera is this turtle that somehow turned into this, humongous creature? Maybe, maybe not, but either way, I think he's just fascinated by Gamera. And so, they plant a seed there, if you want to say that, for Gamera to become more of a hero, as the series goes on. So I feel like they actually balance that kind of well, and then you have the kid, trying to get the adults not just to straight up attack them, and there's more to it than that, sort of, but they don't really have that deep of dialogue in this movie, and that's fine. They didn't have to. There's no big theme, like how the original Godzilla movie, is about the consequences of nuclear war, and a lot of the weight of that brought over. There's nothing like that in this movie. This is just a giant monster flick, and that's fine. It's what I wanted. I was glad to watch it again at this point. I actually don't think the effects for Gamera flying were that bad either. In fact, I think I prefer how Gamera flies in the Showa series compared to the Heisei films. Because in the Heisei films, I haven't watched those in a while either, but yeah, it's like those fins that come out, which are fine. It's more of like a jet sort of thing. You still have the propulsion going on, but actually like this, it being more like a spinning, turtle UFO kind of thing. They have like a sense of wonder vibe about it when they show Gamera flying from afar, and this with a little bit of an ominous edge to it. So I actually kind of like that here. And just from a design standpoint, I like Gamera flying like this a little bit better. So that's one edge with these early Gamera films, I guess, for me. But again, we'll talk more about the 90s films when we get to them. I should be watching Gamera vs. Gaios, from the 60s before too long, and let's keep giving my thoughts on them as we go. So yeah, I actually do really like Gamera, even Gamera the Invincible. I don't think it's too bad. Yeah, the American characters are necessary, but really doesn't change that much. And if there is actually a little more of Gamera, why not watch this version? I don't know. But yeah, so if I had to rate Gamera, the Giant Monster, and Gamera the Invincible, I'd give them both really, actually a pretty strong C+, I think. Or, at least a C++ somewhere in there. And Game vs. Barugon here is going to get something similar. I really enjoyed watching this. I watched just the Japanese subtitled version. This is going off of on Tubi before I get the Blu-ray collection. Taste the rainbow, right? And so we see Gamera fighting another monster for the first time. And, pretty decent. So far, I can see myself actually choosing some of these early Gamera films over some of the earlier Godzilla films. Some. I had a decent time with this. There isn't a lot of Gamera in this movie. A lot of it is like this adventure, Indiana Jones, thief sort of thing. Let me see if we can find more of a sum up on it somewhere. Nope, not really. But basically, they end up stealing this, what they think is a very, very valuable piece of treasure from this mystical area on an island. But of course, it ends up being this egg and this great creature, it's being released because of it. And so, obviously, you have to concentrate on these human characters. One of them is a greedy little bastard, and ends up betraying the other. Mercilessly killing one of them when or not caring when he's poisoned by a scorpion, then trying to kill the other guy. The other guy does survive, and he follows him back into the city, and that's where the monster, Barugon comes out and stuff like that. And meanwhile, Gamera, who was, thwarted at the end of his original film, trapped in that mechanism and, blasted off to Mars, right? And, the kid wanted to go to Mars one day to visit Gamera. It's knocked aside by this, thing flying down through space, I think. It's a little confusing. It's a little, a wee bit convoluted. Not really. I don't know. It's almost 5 in the morning. So it's, it's a fine enough premise for the kind of movie it is. But there definitely should have been more Gamera on this. Although I wasn't as pissed as I thought I was going to be, because I thought it was actually a decent human subplot they had going on in Gamera vs. Barugon. I think better than a good majority of the Godzilla films. It was interesting enough, and you definitely wanted to see the bastard die somehow, whether he's eaten, stomped to death, or just blasted some other way, and you do get that eventually. So not too bad. And then the actress playing the main islander, who ends up helping our more protagonist kind of character after he comes back, she wasn't too bad either, and he was a competent actor as well. Definitely helps when you're not watching the dubs, although you're not getting like Oscar performances or something, but at least you can see some sort of more effort when you're not watching dubs. Although if you're in the mood, just watch the dubs and you'll get your entertainment value. But yeah, Gamera himself, again, looks pretty nice in this movie for the time period, I think. And there's some good shots of him going after Barugon. Barugon himself, a pretty simplistic design, but I don't think he looks bad. Compare this to like Godzilla Raids Again, Godzilla and Anguirus or something. Definitely prefer Anguirus, but I didn't mind Barugon either. Taste his rainbow. So he has a couple different abilities there. He has like a freezing breath as well, and this really deadly tongue dart sort of thing. So they give some of these Gamera foes something different about them that I am enjoying. Looking at again. And the first fight between Gamera and Barugon is actually pretty good. I like it. He ends up using his freeze breath on Gamera. And Gamera, kind of blows some of it out with his fire, but he's almost frozen to death anyway. But when Barugon gets too close, Gamera's still able to move, and he causes him to bleed, from like around his face area, purple blood. And then later on, how Gamera actually ends up killing Barugon is, fairly brutal, for a 60s kaiju film. Biting him, quite a bit of purple blood from Barugon, showing and dragging him into the water, because water being a weakness for Barugon, as we find out later. So yeah, I actually quite enjoyed how things played out in this movie. The more I talk about it, I think the more fond I am of Godzilla, Gamera versus Barugon. I'm looking forward to watching the other early films of his. I do really love Gamera, man. Yeah, I would say I enjoy the original Gamera film and the Invincible, but there is probably a more rewatchable factor to this one. I think Gamera and Barugon. Although I think both films have their place and are better than some of the same era Godzilla films. Of course, Godzilla is always going to be my all-time favorite, but Gamera, I do have a heart for him as well. Really enjoyable stuff. And if I had to rate Gamera versus Barugon, some people think this is overrating it. I'd give it. Whereas if the original Gamera film, I'd give it more of a range between like a C, C+. Gamera and Barugon, I'll give definitively a C+. Almost want to give it a B something, but I'm going to try and hold off. Looking forward to watching Gaios and the other few ones from the 60s and 70s era. But yeah, let me guys thought about both of these. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.